Hey guys, what's up, Cardfight here, and today I'm here with another Cardfight Vanguard deck profile. Today we'll be doing a deck profile on the Nightrose deck, featuring the cards from the newest set. So without further ado, let's get right into the deck profile. So for the Starting Vanguard, we're running Night Kid. You can run any other Starting Vanguard, but Night Kid is my favorite art for the Starting Vanguard so far for Grand Blue. Next, we are running 4 Nightrose. Now Nightrose is obviously the newest VR for the deck. I've seen some builds that are using Cardfight and Nightrose. I'm just running full on Nightrose because Nightrose is the main reason I'm playing this deck, so that's why. And she is very, very good. She's not like, if you read her effect, it's not like super amazing, but she combos really, really well with the rest of the deck, and that's what makes this deck pretty consistent. So yeah, running 4 Nightrose. Next, we are going to be running 2 Skull Dragons, Immortal Dragon, Skull Dragon. This card is your biggest beater in the deck. You mostly use them to finish off your opponent. You don't really want to go into him all the time, but because you want to kind of refund your costs when your units attack and blow up. So if you're kind of trying to just cheese cards out of your opponent's hand, you might not always want to use this. You might want to use Thin Mist Banshee or Storm Raid Ghost Ship instead, so that you can get your cards back. But for the end game turns, you're probably going to be using this. Next, we are running 1 Forebode Ghost Ship. This is my tech in the deck. Mainly running this so you can still call stuff from your drop zone if you have really useless stuff in your hand, like Immortal Dragons or Storm Raid Ghost Ships, or stuff that just is not just too usable in your hand, or don't get effects from your hand, so you can just put them in drop zone and then call this guy out instead. There's lots of ways to get him into the drop zone. You can use Columbard, you can maybe get lucky and ghost greed shade it, or you might get some, or you might have it in the hand and just discard it with other stuff. So if you want to run King Tentacle instead, you can. I don't recommend it because King Tentacle I find very, very inconsistent sometimes, but that's always an option for you guys if you want to run it. Or it could be a Cardfight or whatever else you might want to run in this deck. So next, the grade 2s, we are running the Heart of the Deck, Columbard. This card is super good. He makes your multi-attacks work. So for very simple skill, Vanguard Rearguard Circle, when this card's placed, you can counterblast 1 to search a card in your deck and put it in the drop zone, and then choose a card in the drop zone and call it to a Rearguard Circle, and then you can use this. You can only use this effect once per turn. So you have to keep in mind, you don't want to call this from hand and then use the effect, so then because it wastes your multi-attack. However, if you ride it, it's fine. But yeah, some people might misplay and use his Superior Call on his main phase, and then you get one less attack. So usually you're gonna be calling your Ghost Ships or your Immortal Dragons or your Banshees with this. So very, very good. Next, we are going to be running 4 Greed Shade. Greed Shade is very, very good for ditching useless cards from your hand and picking up more useful stuff. And he's one of the main cards that you will want to call from your hand. He works from the drop zone too, but you're probably not going to be calling him from the drop zone unless you have a really, really bad drop zone. And it's also a 14k beater, so that helps a bit. Next, for the other grade 2s, we are going to be running 2 Thin Mist Banshee and 2 Storm Raid Ghost Ships. So their purpose is kind of the same. When they attack, they blow up, and then you want to refund a card back in your hand so that you can guard for your opponent's next turn. Depending on the situation, you might not want to do that, and you might want to go to the Skull Dragon instead. But for a lot of times, you might want to, if you can't finish your opponent, since your field is going to be empty most of the time, your field is going to be pretty empty when you're going to use your deck with Nightrose, you want to preserve some hand so you can have stuff to guard, and that's why you want to get the refund from their retire and get the cards back in your hand. The reason why I'm not running full on 4 or 3 Stormy Ghost Ships is because you can't call this from your hand, and you also can't superior call it. You can't call it to a Guardian Circle. So he's pretty dead, and that's why Thin Mist Banshee might be better in some situations when you draw it and you can use it to guard. The great ones, we are running the Ghosty Brothers. This card is amazing. He's like grade 3 searchers are normally good, but this card is especially good in this deck because you can call it, search your deck for a grade 3, and then ditch. If you search for a Immortal Dragon Skull Dragon, you can just ditch it. Or if you are like, you can keep using this effect if you call it from the drop zone. If you have nothing good in your drop zone, you can always ditch it and just call it something else back. Like combos with Greed Shade, you can ditch something useless with Greed Shade like a Banshee or a Ghost Ship, and then you can pick Ghosty Brother get up again and then just call it back down. It's a 13k booster, but it also helps you thin out your deck. So very good card. Next, we're running 3 Ripple Banshee. This is one of your main cards that help you draw, and she's also a 12k booster, or you can use it as a 12k beater if you want. Becomes a 17k beater, so against other Protect decks and Force XL decks, you can hit a magic number. Next, we are running 3 Negro Bone. Negro Bone helps with superior calling from your drop zone. Of course, you do have to discard a card and put this card to the bottom of the deck in order to do so, but it makes a lot of your cards live, so that's good for that. Next, we're running 4 Dancing Cutlets. This card is here to help you get your counterblast back, as well as having an extra unit on board, so you can use it as a booster. So this card is very good. Definitely recommend you guys to run this. You do have to bind another copy of it in the drop zone, so you have to kind of set him up in order if you want to use him later in the game. So I do recommend you guys pay attention when you guys are trying to use him for your next turn. So that's it for the main deck with the normal units. This is the trigger units. We're running 6 crit. We're actually running 8 crit. 2 of them are Sentinel crits. Sentinel crits are very good in this deck because you're already getting Protect markers, so you have the perfect cards in your hand. And so I think sometimes 30k guard will be enough, and you might not need the perfect guard and ditch an extra card from your hand. And so 30k shield is sometimes the way to go. However, we're still running 2 perfect guard draws because sometimes you might not rewrite into Nightrose fast enough, and sometimes you do need those perfect guards, and that's why we're running 2 of the perfect guard draws. And we're running 2 normal draw triggers just because sometimes you will need to, if you don't have nothing good to discard in your hand, you're probably going to ditch these instead. So it's a pretty standard trigger lineup, except for our Sentinels are split into different 2 types. And for the heal trigger, we're just running the Waifu heal trigger. So overall, this deck, it's pretty fun to play. It's pretty consistent. This card is kind of hard to brick unless you don't draw into your Nightrose. The other cards in this deck kind of work really well with each other, so there's really no big concerns. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this deck. There are some builds where I see people run Negro, I think Negro Lazy, and I forgot which grade 0 they run, maybe the promo. That build is a little bit more clunky in my opinion, because you have to go through some extra steps, and so it might be less consistent. This build, it's easier to go into, and yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it for this deck, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know if you guys want to see Harry next or Luke here next, or if you have if you have your own Nightrose deck and you want to share down below and see what the differences are, then you can probably let me know. And yeah, that's pretty much it for this video, guys. Comment and subscribe if you haven't already. Smash that like button for me, and I'll see you guys next time.